For you to kind of fill in so you can kind of practice kind of like a graphic organizer. So graphing, when can this method be used? You have to have real solutions. The function has to cross the x-axis or you can't solve by graphing because that means the solutions are complex. In order to solve it, you would have to make sure it's set equal to 0 and then plug it in. Taking the square root, remember you can't have that middle term, so you can only take the square root if this term is not there. If that term is there, you can't solve by taking the square root, and then you would just isolate x and solve for x. Factoring, you can only do it when it's factorable. Not all functions are factorable, not all quadratics can factor. You would set it equal to 0 and factor, and then set both factors equal to 0. You can look at the examples on here. Quadratic function or formula will work every single time. Complex solutions, real solutions, it doesn't matter, it works every time. Make sure you set it equal to 0, find A, B, and C, and plug it in. All right, what is a formula for the discriminant? We talked about this briefly in class one day. The discriminant is just what's under the radical in the quadratic formula. So let me put the quadratic formula up here. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. I thought I heard something. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Sorry. We're fine. All right. This is my quadratic formula. This is my under the radical, or the discriminant is what we call it, and that's what's going to tell us whether we have a real solution or an imaginary solution and how many of each. So remember, if under that radical is positive, we have two real solutions. We have real numbers, there's no i's, it's real solutions, we can get an approximate decimal value if that's what's needed. If it's negative, if what's under that radical is less than 0, that's going to have two imaginary solutions. That means that we took the square root of a negative number, which brought an I out, which is what made it imaginary. And then, if it equals 0, we just have one real. That means we took the square root of 0, and it ended up being plus or minus 0, and you know if we add 0, subtract 0, it does not change that first value. All right, so let's do A, B, C, and D. A, 3x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0. My A value is 3, my B is negative 4, and my C is 2. Okay, so I'm going to plug it into B squared minus 4AC. Make sure you are putting that in parentheses or you're going to get it wrong. B squared minus 4AC. You type it in, it's going to give you a value. This is 16 minus, what's that, 12 and 2 is 24. 16 minus 24 is negative 8, so I have two imaginary solutions, okay? I think your test phrases it in such a way it says, select which of the following has a real solution, something like that, or maybe it asks for imaginary, I don't know. You pick from the following which has whatever solution it's asking for, okay? All right, B. We're on number 13, in case you're wondering. B, 4x squared minus 3x plus 1 equals 0. So I do B squared. I'm putting my negative in parentheses, minus 4AC. So that's 9 minus 16, which is negative 7, which means 2 imaginary. All right, C. On your test, they're definitely going to have one where it's not set equal to 0 already. You have to set it equal to 0 before you do B squared minus 4AC. So I'm going to subtract both sides, 4 from both sides. Now I'm ready to do B squared minus 4AC. Okay? I get 9. Negative 4 times negative 4 is going to be a positive 4, which is going to give me a positive 32 when I multiply it by 2, which gives me 41, which means I have two real solutions. D. I do the same thing for D. I have to make sure that it's set equal to 0 first before I can do my b squared minus 4ac. B squared in parentheses minus 4ac. That's going to give me 16 minus 16, which is 0, so 1 real solution. Okay. Number 14. Okay, before number 14 it says what's the standard form of a circle, and that is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Remember, h and k are your center. They're going to be opposite, similar to how we do vertex form for h. These are going to be opposite, and r squared. I have to square my radius, so don't forget. So I'm going to write the equation of a circle when it has a center of negative 3, 11, and a radius of 9. So I'm going to do opposite of both of these, so plus 3 minus 11, and I'm going to square my radius. Now this is going to be a multiple choice question, and it's going to have other options where this is right but it didn't square the radius, or the signs are backwards, so make sure you know you're opposite and you're squaring the radius. Number 15. Write the equation of a function that will produce the graph of the parent function, f of x equals x squared. Reflected in x-axis, translated 2 units right and 4 units up. So I know that I'm going to be looking like the parent function, or transformed from the parent function x squared. So that means I need to have x squared in my equation. So it tells me it was reflected, and that's that first number right there. That first number, that a value is negative, which means it was reflected. I'm going to start always with that. This gives it to you in the order left to right, if you can remember that. It's been reflected. It went right 2, but remember, it's opposite. Right? You normally think positive, but it's opposite, so I'm putting minus 2. Then it went up 4. Notice how, again, it went from left to right. It told me it was reflected. It went right 2 and up 4. Moving on to the last page. Number 16 says the function f of x is given by the equation f of x equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. It says the values for the quadratic function g of x are given in the table. Find the y-intercepts of each function. Remember, the y-intercept of a quadratic in standard form is this last number. So my y-intercept of f of x is negative 4. Also remember that my y-intercept is just wherever I plugged in 0, or where the x is 0. On my table, it gave me where x is 0, so it told me that the y-intercept for g of x is negative 3. This is going to be a multiple choice question on your test. It's going to say, how many, it's going to have like different options of the description. So you would look for one that says g of x is 1 unit above the y-intercept of f of x. Or inversely, the y-intercept of f of x is 1 unit below the y-intercept of g of x. The main thing is the y-intercept from a function comes from the last number. From an equation comes from the last number. From a table, you find where x is 0, and that's your y-intercept. Number 17. A ball is thrown into the air from the top of a 60-foot cliff. So imagine a cliff. Okay, this is a cliff. Ooh. All right. I've done a lot of weird things in this video, so don't make fun of me. This is my cliff. My ball is thrown. Okay, there we go. The shape that the ball made had a function of, the equation was this, okay? And that's what models the ball's path. It says, how long does it take the ball to reach its maximum height? So, my maximum height is going to be up here, and this is going to be my vertex. My vertex is going to be in terms of time and height. Okay? I want to know how long it took the ball to get there, which means I need the x value of my vertex. So, I do the opposite of b divided by 2a. Which means it took 1 second. It doesn't really give me units, but we'll go with second. It took 1 second for the ball to reach its maximum height. Okay? If it wanted to know, oh, and then it says, what is the maximum height? So if I want to know the maximum height, I will take this, I will plug it back in. Negative 16 plus 32 plus 60 gives me 76. So my max height was 76, we'll say feet. Okay? All right, almost done. 18, okay? It's hard to see this one, so I'll show it on the camera, all right? It says find the solutions to the systems of equations y equals negative 2 minus 3 and y equals g of x, where g of x is defined by the graph of the function below. This is what we practiced on Tuesday. Remember, we did those 3 problems where you were already given a graph, you were given an equation, and then you had to graph the equation onto the graph you were already given. So I was already given g of x, and that's the one that's graphed. Then I was given an equation, y equals negative 2x minus 3, and I was going to graph that. So I started at negative 3, and I went up 2 over 1 in the negative direction. And I kept going until I found an intersection. So for here, one of my intersection points is negative 3. 1, 2, positive 3. Negative 3, positive 3. And over here, one of my intersection points is 1, negative 5. So that would be my answer to that one. Number 19, you're looking for the line y equals x plus 4 and where it intersects with the line y equals x squared plus 6x plus 8. You can do this algebraically, which we've talked about, or you can just graph them on your calculator and find that. Remember, on your calculator, you're going to graph one, you're going to press tab, and you're going to graph the second one. To find the intersection, you're going to do menu, analyze, intersection. Okay? One of the questions about systems of equations will just ask you how many times they intersected. Be sure that you zoom in and that you're positive of the number of intersections. Don't just assume it's one or none without zooming in to verify. So you're going to graph them. This one happens to have 2 points of intersection, and it's going to be at negative 4, 0, and 1, 3. I can't really show you this just because it's hard to show you on the calculator. So I can show you one of them on the calculator. I'll show you one of them. Well, I'll show you I'll show you 20 and 21 on the calculator. All right. So number 20. You've got y equals x squared plus 4x, and you've got 2x minus y equals negative 3. Remember, before I can graph them in my calculator, I have to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Divide everybody by negative 1. So I'm going to graph that equation and that equation. Let me show you this on the calculator. Okay, so I'm going to go home. I'm going to go down to the very bottom, and I'm going to go to graph. I'm going to type in that first equation, which is x squared plus 4x. Is that right? Yep. I'm gonna press enter. Then I'm going to press tab, and that's gonna pull up a new bar, and I'm gonna type in 2x plus 3. Enter. Okay. Now I have two intersection points. I can see them both clearly. From here, I'm going to press menu, analyze, intersection. Remember, I have to go to one side of the intersection. I like to bring mine all the way over and go left to right. You don't have to do it in that order. So I'm going to make sure my cursor is on one side, and I'm going to press enter. I'm going to take my cursor to the other side. Notice that it popped up intersection. That means I found it. You can press enter, and I get -3, -3. I do it all again to find the other one. Menu, menu, analyze, intersection. I go to one side of the intersection and press enter. I go to the other side and press enter. Intersection popped up, which means I know I got it. And that's going to be, let me move it, 1, 5. Boom. All right. Number 21. Number 21 says identify the graph produced by each equation and solve the systems. This is an equation for a circle. Okay, my center is 0, 0. My radius is 8. That's important to know. My other equation, okay. I'll solve for y first. And I'm going to do this the exact same way. I'm going to graph these two and find the intersection. I'll show you quickly how to graph a circle. Okay, so if I want to clear this, I'm going to press clear a bunch of times, and then yes, I need a new bar, so I press tab. Now, I'm going to go menu, let's not do that first. Okay, I'm going to type in my line first. So I'm going to type in -x plus 8, enter. I'm going to press tab. Now, the only problem with just doing, trying to type in the circle is that this isn't a function. So, a circle isn't a function because it doesn't pass that, the vertical line test. So I have to go menu, graph entry, equation, circle. I'm looking for a circle, and I'm looking for that center form. So, I am at 0, 0 for my center, so I plug in 0 next to x and y. Remember, that's going to be the radius squared. So the radius squared ended up being 64. So to type this in, I would do 8 squared because that's how I would get to 64. I'm going to get the circle. Now, I'm a little too far in, so I'm going to go menu, window, zoom out. Okay. And now I can kind of see what it is. So it's at, one intersection is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One of the intersections is at 0, 8. And the other intersection is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there you go. This problem will be on your test. It's going to be a bonus question, so don't freak too much out about this. And you're just looking for the 2 points, and you will be able to count them. It should be pretty easy if you can figure out how to get them graphed. I hope this was helpful. Sorry I screamed. It was very scary. I thought something was going to get me. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.